You're watching Explore the Bible Sunday School lesson from Redbud Baptist Church. Redbud Baptist Church is located at 801 Slide Road in Lubbock, Texas, and Sunday School, it starts at 9:30 a.m. every Sunday. Grab your Bible. Let's study together.
Hey guys, this is Explore the Bible. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever's going on in your life at this moment. But we're glad you're here. I have Guy and Linda here to help teach and get through our, I think it's lesson number 11, right? That we're on, session 11, I think is what we call it. This is our last part of Proverbs before we move into Song of Songs or Song of Solomon next week. So kind of excited that we're finishing Proverbs in a way, but we really enjoyed being part of Proverbs for these last several weeks. We love that. I'm going to go ahead and pray and get these guys started on this lesson, and I appreciate you guys coming in and doing this for us. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, just thank you for the wisdom that you showed us through all the Proverbs, that you used Solomon as a messenger, Lord, but these messages that he put down, this wisdom that he put down is for us to use, to apply. So, Lord, allow us to learn more from it today. Allow the Holy Spirit to lead this lesson. Let it apply it to our hearts and our hands and our feet, Lord. And Lord, let us use wisdom from all the knowledge we're receiving. Let us act on it. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, it's all yours.
Well, this is a unique lesson for us today, and it's not a hard one to teach as far as teaching goes. It's one that we need to stop and think about as we go through life. The title is Finding Honor, and that's a good title for the lesson, I think, because it tells us that we need to look to God to find what we want. The writer did a fantastic job in the commentaries to bring out what these verses are and the importance of them in our daily life. And had I read these particular verses before I got married, I would probably gone a different route in everything. But unfortunately, I wasn't a Christian at that time, and God didn't tell me what to do. I was telling myself what to do. But if I had followed the instructions of what God has in this particular chapter of Proverbs, all I can see is he hit the nail on the head. He couldn't have done any better in helping us in this life. God recognizes those that faithfully demonstrate his wisdom in their lives. And we've talked about wisdom in the past few chapters of Solomon and how important it is to rely upon God for our decisions in walking with him. And one of the things the writer put in here is most of us go through our days and carry out our tasks without thinking somebody may be watching us. We would be surprised if we found out that somebody had been watching us while we go through the day. We would even be more shocked if our observer addressed how we managed our time and the specific challenge we face. Have you ever stopped and think that people are watching you? And what their thought is as they see you go through your daily chore. They may not be peeking through your window to see what you're doing, but as you walk into the store or you are walking around the block of your home, people see you and they watch how you respond to different circumstances. And it's important that we walk with the Lord as we go around here. He says, and a question is, share about a time when you became aware of someone that was watching you, and how did you respond when you realized that they was doing so?
Well, being a mother, I think our children watch us closely, because I have seen my daughter sit like me. I have seen a son raise his eyebrows like I do when you're not really questioning something, but it makes you wonder a little bit, so you raise your eyebrows. But I think that being a mother, the ones that watched me most was my children.
Okay.
And so,
But I think also if you
But,
stop and
yeah.
think, your husband watched you,
mhm,
your
fellow
your
employees.
siblings,
Yeah, yeah.
your sisters or brothers,
Yeah.
they watched
Mhm.
how you responded. I know uh, uh, my brother watched me, and he was 3 years younger than me, but he watched me. Uh, he may not have liked what I did at
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
We may had our difficulties, but he still honored me and stood up to me. And I think because of my actions as a Christian, left a mark on him. And I think
so.
it does
no,
today.
I think, like,
Mhm.
being able to talk to Tim, and he was kind of one of my mentors when I went to youth ministry type thing. He, I could see a lot of you and Barbara in him. The way he thinks, and how he loves God and everything like that. I mean, I know when my sisters talk about missing dad, and of course I miss dad too. But I see dad every time I'm using a tool, because I just remember watching him do different things, and that was him. And now I see that in my sons too. How well they can do different things. They each have different qualities that they use and different talents. And but if we're out working on a car or working on a project, or computer stuff or whatever, you just kind of see parts of you that has flowed down. So they had to be watching you.
Yeah.
It didn't, some of the stuff is not genetic,
Without
Right.
you realizing it.
Yeah, without you even realizing it.
Yeah.
Correct. That's correct.
As we look at the lesson today, it's found in Proverbs chapter 31, and the verses go from verse 10 through 31. And if we start off, Lynn, would you read verse 10, please?
Yes. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels.
I don't even know how to respond to
Yeah.
Well,
that statement, because being married for 55 years, I can say that she is more precious than a jewel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless, it says, and the one of the writers that I read in one of my commentaries put it this way: said, this description of a virtuous woman here is designed to show that wives, the women should make, and what wives and men should choose. It consists of 21 verses, each beginning with a letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The wife is a noble character. She's, as the verse says, she's precious, and I'm speaking from a man on that side, because as a husband, you look up to your wife. You watch over her, you protect her, you give her strength, but then in turn, she watches over you, and she usually gives you more strength.
Right.
As you look at it. So, and you think about the jewels, and I can speak, well, maybe for James, is there anything you wouldn't do for your wife?
Absolutely. There's nothing that I wouldn't do for her.
And
That's and you have to remember that, because you go through that, and I realize this is 30 years ago, 30, if I don't remember, 34 anyway. It's been a while, but after that first after the honeymoon, after you're dating, you're chasing each other and stuff like that, and that first year, you're trying to understand each other, because when you're dating, you're going on the highlights of each other.
Yeah.
that's right.
When you're living that first year of marriage, now you're on the negatives of each other, that you're trying to work through and understand. And a lot of people just don't always make it through that and don't think in that way. But they're I love the way he puts the jewels there, because this is the most precious thing that they can describe this time. Now, we
Yeah.
might have more precious things that we think of nowadays, but he's talking here that this is the most precious thing. So, the way I understand it, there's only one thing you're going to love more than your wife, and that's going to be God.
Good God.
And and she's right behind that. So if we keep her there, then it should be everything else should fall in place. That Christian Man book that we're reading, if anybody, you guys are reading it, chapter 4, I think is just awesome. It's talking about marriage and how you should be able to think
through that, has some real practical stuff and some prayer stuff, and I think so. If you guys haven't got to chapter 4 and you're married or about to be married, it's a good thing to do. So,
So do you guys feel fortunate for the wives that you have?
oh, I feel blessed because I married up. So I don't know what she sees in me, but praise the Lord that she sees something in me.
Well, I know I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I
Barbara was
say,
just such a loving person. I mean, just incredible.
Yes, she
So
was.
even though we only dated for, I'm going to think, around 9 months before we was married, so it was a short time frame, but it was an everlasting, because when we married, we said our vows and we stuck with them. And like I said, I was married to her for 55 years. And those, to me, was some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
And without her, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And she probably wouldn't be the lady that she is if it hadn't have been for me. So it kind of goes both ways.
Yes, it does.
We supported each other in all aspects of our life. And Solomon talks about that as we go through the lesson, in supporting each other as a couple.
and I remember realize that the Spirit's leading through the Proverbs, but we got to think here. Solomon, and I think it's First Kings chapter 4. He's talking about, that's when God says, "Well, what do you need?"
Yeah.
And he asks for wisdom, discernment, that type of
Yes.
stuff. And he gets that, but you think about how many wives did he have?
Yes.
He at the very least would have an expert of what would be good and what would not be good, because I'm sure he was walking through both of them at any given moment,
Yeah.
So,
That's for
But
sure.
look back at Boaz and Ruth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an incredible,
Yeah.
incredible thing. Talk about love and dedicated to each other. That's
Yes.
just, there's so many, and there's a lot of that in the Bible. These people were not perfect people,
No, they weren't.
but you can see how the institution of marriage is such a strong thing that God uses in the Bible, even to the point of Christ and the church.
Right.
So and in our flesh we have taken that and wiped it all over the place and made it so I guess we belittled it so much, made it so small that it's not important, it's not an institution anymore. And I don't think that was God's intention
No,
ever in our
definitely
life.
not.
I think it's still a cornerstone, a strong part of our character, how strong we can move, how well we're with
Yeah.
God.
If we look
Well,
back at Adam and Eve, God told Adam that he's going to leave his father and his mother
Yeah,
and cleave
and
only
cleave to his
into
wife.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know what a father and a
But
mother
no,
were.
it was, yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I never really thought about that much, but you're correct. Maybe a father, but yeah.
all through the Bible, I think there are
So,
marriages.
so you're saying God put that in there for us?
For
Yes,
us.
yes, definitely for us.
Absolutely.
That is, we look at it, it says a wife of noble character is difficult to find,
Absolutely.
and a wise husband who experiences the blessing that comes by having such a woman in his life is considered himself to be most fortunate. And I look upon my marriage, I was most fortunate to have the lady that I had in my life, and it was just fantastic. And for that reason, it says here, for that reason, she's compared to the most precious stone anyone could find. And to me, there's no stone that would compare to my wife in anything. It says, and we just talked about that. Ruth served as an Old Testament example of women who has distinguished herself by her character. Ruth's reputation as a person of noble character had become known to everyone in Bethlehem who knew her. And we go today. People know us by our wives, pretty much. The church knows you by through you, not so much for Gerald because of his condition, and that he's not able to attend like he would like. But they know him, and they know that through him, they respect you. And it was the same way for me. Through Barbara, people knew who I was, and it was respect, and the same thing for Holly and you. She's a crutch, and I'm speaking for the men now. She's a crutch to us as a Christian, especially
Maybe a full-blown stretcher.
Especially when we put when our wives are Christians,
Yeah.
And a strong Christian, they are a crutch to us, and they help us through many details and times. In verses 11 and 12.
The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life.
Wow.
I mean, look
Yeah,
what Psalm
that is something.
how can you not honor your spouse in a way that it's talking about here? He says, the heart of her husband trusts in her. I know I keep going back to my wife, but
Well, that's your example. That's
my example
living
is,
an illustration, you know.
I had complete trust in her. I didn't
Absolutely.
worry about her.
No.
I didn't worry about her straying, and it speaks a little bit about that later on from our marriage vows, and she didn't do the same. I drove for 6 years on the road for interstate, so I was gone all the time.
Yeah.
She didn't worry about what I was doing, and the same with me. I knew that
She trusted you.
she
Yeah.
trusted me, and I
Absolutely.
trusted her to completely in our marriage vows.
I mean, I have some, not so good examples too. I mean, and this is not to mention names or anything like that, but I've known a lot of people that got divorced, and this is not anything recent. It's a long
No.
time ago, but it's almost like the couple were spiteful towards each other, mean towards each other. It's like, and I know this didn't happen overnight. I realize that this didn't happen yesterday or anything like that. But there was things in there that they were trying to split up that one of them didn't like, but was going to grab it just because the other one liked it,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's just, it's totally against what God's plan was for anybody. And if we let things like that fester, things like that grow, who knows where that leads. All through, of course, Proverbs and some of the other scripture, is talking about how we're supposed to be thinking of the other person first and putting them first before ourselves, obviously. And I realize, a wife or a spouse is the biggest thing you're going to put first, after God. And, you're going to look at other people before yourself. But if we put them first, then that's where that trust is going to happen.
That's right.
We know God's the Lord of them. They have God first.
Well,
We have God first. So if we're keeping that, we're going to be close to each other
Yeah.
because we're following the same Lord.
we had that understanding that God was first,
Yeah.
and then I came second, or she came second,
Yeah.
and we had that understanding.
Which the opposite spouse. Yeah.
and from the beginning of our marriage, and I think even before I became a Christian, I not so much understood the concept of that, but I knew it somewhere in my heart. I knew
Now, just
that,
to throw this out there, Guy, and I realize in this room, every one of us have gone through struggles. I mean, we do not have perfect marriages by
No.
any stretch of the imagination, but we do have marriages that work because of who we put in the begetting in the lead.
That's right.
And we have learned to communicate, and there's
Yes.
going to be times we have to work on that again,
Well, you know,
and it happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
you said something about family struggling and all that, and I can honestly say that in the 55 years of my marriage, that Barbara and I never had what they call a knockdown, drag out fight.
Yeah.
We had disagreements, and we got over them. But as far as a fight to say, well, I'm leaving, we never had one.
Right. It was never in the conversation.
No.
It's something we're going to work out. We're going to
Yeah.
communicate until we get it
And-
worked out, and we're going to give it to the Lord, because He's the one that's going to bring the
Yeah.
peace
It
regardless.
says a noble wife's devotion to her husband has a lasting effect on him, and I agree. His heart serves as a reservoir of complete confidence in her, and he harbors nothing but enduring faith for her. He knows that she'll be faithful to him in their marriage. Consequently, he depends on her without any concerned that she will let him down. His relationship with her gives him the excellent reason for depending on her. She consistently enriches his life in more ways than he could ever imagine. The writer hit it nail on the head,
Absolutely,
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because of her commitment to their marriage, he doesn't lack for nothing. And I've said this before, we're not rich as far as the world goes, but as far as the Lord goes, we was millionaires in our walk. He provided everything that we needed. And whenever the time came, we never wanted for anything. And through the prayers of both of us, we obtained that, and we attained that strength.
Yeah, I mean, the lasting effect on a husband, I remember reading before, and I think it's something that me and Holly were going through studying and stuff, and it's talking about, if the wife and husband kiss before they leave to go to work, for a husband, that's going to give him even a stronger sense of obligation, one, but of completing things that he needs to complete to make sure the household continues forward. But also the love for her and stuff like that. But it's just that affection that she has for him. Seems to give him strength throughout the day, if you will.
It does.
Just that little extra or whatever. And it's some things we just don't think about. But for some reason, some psychologists did, and prove that, the Bible, what it talks about is true. Wow.
It's true.
Amazing that.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I've loved teaching Proverbs before,
Oh, yeah.
and I like it still today.
It's a fantastic book.
And especially this verse on, well, it's not just a husband and a wife, it's marriage.
Marriage, completely. Yeah.
And I mean, and not to get in too much on it, but it's relationships regardless.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And trust is something that has to be earned in the long run, and we have so many people out there that just want that instant trust, and it's just the relationship hasn't formed in any way, nothing has happened yet. Where's that trust coming from? It's just relationships in general have to have a certain amount of give and take and a certain amount of trusting each other and stuff.
So, again, because of her commitment to the marriage, he doesn't lack for anything. Living with a woman of excellent character makes the life of her husband most rewarding, as James just said. Her commitment to him rewards him with a constant supply of blessings. She's an asset to him. Well, she's an asset. You can't go any other way.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it in financial terms there, an asset, is something that's going to be positive, something that's going to be beneficial, that type of stuff. So, and we need to think of it that way too. It's your most precious thing is that relationship with your wife. The most precious thing that's in your life here on earth, outside of God.
Outside of God.
And that's, we got to treat it that way.
Yeah.
We have cars that we treat better than our spouses. We have houses that we treat better than our spouses. We have other relationships that we will start making better than our spouses. And that's where things are going to go south and wrong. Right. Once you start entering that into your mind, it becomes in your heart. And, Christ lets us know all kinds of stuff about that. Once you think about it, it's going,
I used to say that, and I stop and think. Before this virus and all that, Barbara and I like to go to the mall, and we just get a cup of coffee or a Coke and sit there and just. She had a habit of just love to watch people.
Yeah, she's a people watcher. Yeah,
but she would sit there and say, "Look," and there'd be an elderly couple walking by holding hands, and then here come a young couple, and she would be over here and he'd be over here. No concern of who each other was. It seems like. Yeah. To me, that didn't show the respect.
That kind of leads to that next question. In your church family, who comes to mind when you think about a woman describing in this verse? And, when you're talking about the couple right there, that's JD and Willie for me.
Yeah.
Me and Holly. That's who we looked at. They're the cutest couple that we had in this church. Not taking anyone else, away, because there's several people that we look to.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're talking about women here, obviously. And so, Willie was an incredible woman. But where do we start? There's so many women there. You walk Melba, come on, you know,
Yes.
Yep.
and you walk into these things, and it's like, you know, you come in with a 30 years or whatever marriage and stuff like that, and these people are talking about 50 and 60 and stuff, you know. It's just incredible, but that's because they put the priorities that they need to put
Yes.
first.
Yeah. Put Christ first.
And every one of those men in those relationships realize that woman is special, a jewel. It's incredible. I am blessed. I am lucky. I am, you know, God's looking out for me. However we want to describe it, we know that this is a special
She stands
creature that
behind
God
you.
made for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
She
Well,
stands
Jerry
behind
still
you.
thinks that I'm beautiful.
Well,
Well, Holly's still beautiful.
Good. I am.
You're
so
still beautiful,
glad.
but it's different, you know.
But you know, you think about that. My mom and dad were real close and real. Dad was the one that held mother's hand. You know,
Yeah.
I doubt if they ever went to a mall, but my parents were good examples of a good Christian marriage, strong, faithful, and I think that I was blessed having parents like that.
yeah.
And it helped me in my marriage. Now, Jerry and I have had our ups and downs. I think everybody's marriages
I think we
have,
all have
but
ups and downs.
we got along well.
Yeah.
And we get along well. And we have had to experience a loss, as Guy has.
Mm.
And, but I think that Jerry is an incredible man. And when he could, he came to church with
Yep.
me faithfully. And he's been a blessing. He truly has. And now, then he's going through so much. I left him in bed this morning.
See,
Because he was up
that's
most of
another
the
part of
night.
a faithful wife.
Yes.
She knows that he's fine, but she's standing beside him as a wife, according to her vows.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thick and thin, you know,
Yeah,
worse and best and worst.
Because I think of that, and I stood behind Barbara in the latter years of her
So
life.
incredibly, yeah.
It's I won't say humiliating, but I'm going to say an honor for a spouse to sit there and have to feed their spouse, or to do whatever that spouse needs to help her or him, either way. It's an honor in our marriage to do that. And the last months of Barbara, I had to feed her because she was unable to hold a spoon.
Mm.
And it just, to me, that was an honor to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of any other way. And I've had people say, and even church members, why don't you put her in a home?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because it wasn't necessary.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was able to take care of her.
Absolutely.
Now, if it would have been totally different if I was physically unable to take care of her.
Right. That's not what we're trying to preach
Yeah,
here. We're just
no.
trying to say that, you know, you're perfectly capable.
But
to
I
do
look
it.
at the other way. If it had been the other way around, that I would have been the one down, like Linda, she would be the one caring for me
Yeah.
and not worried about it. And she would be just like this jewel that's in this lesson this morning.
And I'm not a woman, obviously, but I look at the churches right now and how strong the women are in the churches compared to the men. And I go back to thinking about, there's one verse, and I'm sorry, I cannot bring it up, it just came in my heart, but it's talking about the woman, and through her faith, you know, she can bring along the husband or spouse to trust Christ, you know. So if she stays faithful to God, you know, it'll be a way, just like, you know, almost any other person, you know, they see Christ working in you, and that's an opportunity. So it's incredible how strong God has made women.
Yeah.
And
Maybe it was Aquila.
yeah, maybe.
But you say that, I stop and think of Barbara and I when we was dating. She lived in Clovis, and she would say, hey, there's a youth program going on in Muleshoe, and I want to go. And I'm not a Christian, but guess where I went? or there was one in Clovis that she wanted to go to, or whatever. That's where we would go. And then, of course, again, as you just said, that the woman, if she stays faithful to her belief, can lead her husband to the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we got married, Jerry was still, well, he was Lutheran. And so we would alternate. So we would go to the Lutheran church, and then he would come with me to a Baptist church. And I was going to a little Baptist church on Prince Street. And so we tried going to Lutheran church on Prince Street. Well, it was really highbrow. I had never gone to a Lutheran church before. Now, I had Catholic friends, and I had been to a Catholic church. And so the first thing I thought of when I walked into that Lutheran auditorium, it's just like a Catholic church. This will be okay. I've done Catholic. And then it's not. But, I did try being a Lutheran.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I started going through confirmation. And the closer we got to the confirmation, the more questions I had. And being raised by a strict mother and father, I knew Baptist principles and biblical backup for that. And so that caused a little bit of questioning,
Right.
Yeah.
on my part. But I never did finish confirmation.
You read 13 through 16.
She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. This is a very progressive woman that's mentioned in this Old Testament. But she is independent, but her husband allows her to be that way, or else she wouldn't be.
Well, he's not controlling.
No, he is not controlling.
Like I say, he allows her to be the woman that she is because he knows that the decisions that she makes will be honest decisions, and one that would not destroy his reputation in the community. He would still be a strong individual, and people could see that through the way that he treats his wife.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will, that's where we get a lot of flack in the world, is because Baptists, they talk about, I guess they think all our wives are barefooted, pregnant in the kitchen, doing all their servant stuff for us. And that's not the way it's painted in the Bible at all. It's just they'll take different clips of that, little parts, and don't put it in context whatsoever. And that's what hits the news, or that's what hits the cycles.
See, I think I said it before. The first time Barbara and I went to my folks, I was raised by my grandmother. My step-grandfather was an alcoholic, and my grandmother knew that Barbara and I was coming to visit for a week, and she told him, her husband at that time, says, please, and she begged, do not drink while Barbara's here because she is a church girl, and that was her phrase.
Yeah, church girl.
She was a church girl, raised in church. So don't drink. Well, he did good till the last weekend, and then he couldn't take any more.
Yeah.
But so she saw both sides of him at that time, but she understood a little bit about it. And in the same way of instructions, women today deserve to be treasured because she doesn't waste her time. Instead, she uses it wisely and in the best interest of her family. She is consistently at work and with willing hands. In today's life, or for today more so, it seems like both partners need to work to support the family. I know Linda worked for years partly because she enjoyed it, and then partly because she felt a need to help take care of the family. And Holly's the same way with you. Not necessarily because she wants to, and then part of it is because she enjoys it.
Yeah, yeah.
But then she also enjoys being able to help help the family financially,
Right.
in whatever way that she can.
And I think the biggest concern is always when you're raising children and stuff like that, and it's good for a parent to be home when they can, as much as possible to parent them. And that's not, I'm not just saying woman or man, both of them. you know.
Both the children need both parents.
Yeah, so it's so incredible when you have both of them working together. The children see the love between the husband and wife, the relationship. That makes it so much easier for them to understand the relationship we have with Christ and God, and how we work through our stuff. Even in what we were talking about earlier, Christ, dies for the church. That's how much he loves the church, and that's the same thing with our wives. We love them that much. That's our example. And so if they see the relationship, because even like the book that we were reading, The Christian Man, it's talking about you can be considered by the world to be a good father, but unless you're a good husband, it's not going to help that child at all, because they're not going to see the relationship that's intended to be there, which means they're not going to really see that relationship that's intended to be there with the relationship of Christ either. So it all ties together so incredibly. And God intended it to be that way, but we need to be aware that everything we do, like you said earlier, people are watching. Your kids are watching. Your grandkids are watching. And
well, also in this particular passage, she's a worker.
Yeah.
She's not lazy. She gets up and she gets the job done. And I think that's one of the things that children need to see in their mothers today.
Whether it's outside the house or inside the house.
Right. She's not caught up in drama.
Yeah.
She's not, moving in that direction. She's not a gossiper. She's not anything like that.
She doesn't sit there and watch the soap operas all day long.
No, she is.
Her house is clean.
Yeah. It makes it easy for a husband to love.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the husband makes it easier for the wife to love, because we're thinking about the other person and ourselves.
Being more than just looking at ourselves.
Right.
But this verse kind of lets me feel good about leaving my children and working. I didn't leave them with anyone that I didn't trust and love.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing, was leaving babies. But I had a job that I loved. I had a career that I loved. But I loved my children more. I loved my husband more. I love God more. But it's okay for a woman to get out into the
Barbara stayed home while the kids were at home until they went to school. And after they went to school, then she decided, I can't sit at the house all day. I need to be doing something, just as Solomon is saying here. She needs to be doing something. And so she went to work. But it was after the children had left the home as far as going to school.
I was always a room mother. I didn't want my children to feel like they couldn't count on me at all times, because I worked and I loved what I was doing. But I wanted my children to be important to me, and I think they felt that way. I hope they did.
What are some of the ways you demonstrate prudence as you make choices for your family? I think when we look at that, we think that the choices that we make are sometimes financial, sometimes recreational. It can be so much either way.
Well, that's how I felt it. Because I worked, we could afford more for the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We could go more, do more.
Keep in mind, there's a trade there.
Yes,
Is it a good trade or not? That type of stuff.
Yeah, and the kids could be involved in more things and go on more trips.
We see so much in society now, like and this is not pointing fingers at anyone, but in the long run, your kids are running around, they don't have the clothes they need for school, but yet you're still buying the cigarettes or still
Yeah.
buying. So, you're going to make choices that you need to make to grow the kids up the way you need. And they need to see that. They need
Yeah.
to see that you're making these sacrifices for them. That's
For
how
them.
important the kids are for you. And of course, I realize cigarettes isn't the biggest thing, but
No.
some people feel it might be. But there's other things like that, the new car, the new TV, stereo, Netflix, something. There's things that you just can't afford. The new cell phone, if we're going today. I realize that's more, we're talking about materialistic things, but there's even more than that.
Well, that's
Looks
Time.
like I'm going
It
to
is,
need
you
a
know.
new cell phone.
Yeah. And time becomes a very important thing.
Yeah.
The time you spend with your quality time you spend with your kids and your spouse, that goes miles and miles
Right.
and miles.
Yeah, and the kids remember it as they grow up.
I'm hoping my kids do.
They will.
They,
They will.
No, I see my daughter working now,
Yeah.
and this is her last week before she's back in school next week.
Yeah.
So she's making sure the house is clean, the windows are washed, and
Wow.
everything.
She washes windows. That's
Yeah,
incredible
Yes,
there.
she
send it to
does.
my house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, well, I don't wash windows, but I do the front door and the sliding door.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that my children have grown up to be good Christian people. That is quite a blessing.
Yeah, sometimes it takes some time, you get a little bit
Yes,
of
it
prodigal stuff
does.
going on, I guess. But really, they'll come back to it because they
Yes.
saw that in you, in your
Well,
in the
and
parents.
earlier in Proverbs,
Yeah.
we saw
Yeah.
a passage of scripture that says, if you raise up a child in the way he should go when he's old, he will not depart from it.
And we always got to put that disclaimer here. These are not prophetic things. These are not. This is general ways that we should be living to help improve relationships and wisdom and discernment.
Right.
And but it's not saying that everything's going to work out perfect every
No.
time.
No.
It takes, of course, if we're talking about husband and wife, it takes two. We're talking
Yes,
about the
it
kids,
does.
it takes a family, So everybody has to be on the same page with
Right.
that for it to do well.
Yes.
In verse 23 through 27 it says, her husband is known at the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments. She delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle.
I think we just spoke a little bit about that. She's never idle. She's always doing something for her family. It's, the description of a virtuous woman is of excellency continues with the observation about another positive effect on her husband. Because of the stellar way she manages herself and her family, she enhances her husband's reputation. At the city, a city gate served as a location where men would gather to conduct business and attend to legal issues. The husband of a woman of a noble character would have a superb reputation there. Because of her, he would be considered one of the wise elders of the city, and everyone would respect that. I don't know how to put that in today. I guess without bragging, Barbara put me in that position, I think, of respect to other people. As my role as leadership in different churches that I've been in, she left a standing impression that he is noted for his word, or his work, or his reputation in doing things, and I stand by him, and that would be her thought. She stood by me in whatever decision I made, and in the church, and you know it as James as well as I, we have in my position as a deacon and yours as a pastor, you know that some things come to you that stay to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And Barbara knew the same thing to me. Some things would say, she would say, well, what was that meeting about? And, it was a meeting.
Yeah.
And okay, I understand. And that's as far as it needed to go. I wasn't pressed with, well, come on, you got to tell me what it
Yeah.
is. You got to tell me
No, they
what's
never
going
do
on.
that.
No, and she understood that part. And so I respected her for that. And that was part of our bondage because I knew that I could trust her regardless. And if I wanted to share something, I knew that's as far as it went. And the writer here is telling us the same thing.
Yeah.
Have faith in your spouse at all times.
In verse 28 and 29 it says, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. What a wonderful thing
Yeah,
to
her
be said.
children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband praises her. And I can't say, all I can say on that particular, my children praised their mother, and they still do. And now, as far as me, it might be a different story. But they would do nothing for her. I know our oldest son, before he
There was
passed,
nothing they wouldn't do for her.
there's nothing
Yeah.
they wouldn't
Okay,
do. Yeah.
let's put it that way.
Oh, okay.
We understand what you meant. Let's get in the
Yeah.
right context there.
You said would instead of
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Oh,
So
well.
I've seen them interact with your wife, and they definitely would do anything that they possibly could in their power to help her.
Yeah,
do things
and
for her.
they did up until the last. And as a husband, I praised her for what she did and how she raised our children. And you're the same way, Linda. You praised Jerry for how your children was raised. They may not be perfect,
Yeah.
but you did the best you could according to God's ways. And that's, in today's society, that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
If we do it in a way that praises God and doesn't leave him out, then I think we've achieved the goal that God has sent us with. And
Yes.
like Barbara and I always said, God was on loan. He loaned us 3 sons. They're not our sons, but they are. They belong to God. And we understood that.
You could do some management for a while.
Yeah,
Yes, that's all we got to
he
do.
just he loaned them to us to raise them,
Absolutely.
and he wanted us to raise them in a way that was pleasing to him, and we did the best we could,
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
and that was what he said. And
That helps us put that in context for sure. That's
Yes,
a
it
beautiful
does.
way to do it.
huh?
I think that's a beautiful way to put it in context of what God's doing in our lives.
Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised.
And we brought in fears the Lord again. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
that's
all
it.
through the Proverbs.
Yeah.
Fears the Lord.
Often fear the Lord.
Yeah.
It's healthy respect for him, putting him first. Yeah.
When her husband observes the blessings he's been given as such a remarkable wife, he can't stop but singing her praises either. He elates that he found in her what his heart longed for. That is why he declares her to be the best woman in the world, and she surpasses them all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates.
Yeah.
So that's
And when you think about some of these different things through the Bible, the character of these people, again, not perfect, but they were known. And I guess they're known because it was talked about at the city gates. These are people that you could trust, people that were honest, people that followed God, feared the Lord, whether it was husband or wife or both. It's all through the Bible that
Yes.
somehow they of good character. You see that a lot.
yes.
And they
Her
knew that.
works share the story of her devotion to God.
Yeah, but you stop and think
don't
of
need
Jesus
that.
in his walk while he's walking on earth. He always chose someone that was poor or hurting. He never chose a person of well standing.
Right.
He went to the down and out people, so to speak, and brought them up.
Right.
And he does the same with us. And he
And,
did.
and that way, that of course he could be glorified. I mean,
Yeah.
because if it's a person of well standing already, well, what did Jesus do that changed that person?
Change it. That's
You
right.
know, Yeah, he was already successful before that, if you will. You know, that type of stuff. So
But, verse 30 says, charmed is deceptive by beauty. It's fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. And we just spoke about that. The honor she receives from her receives comes from the way she honors the Lord. While everyone else may insist that charm brings honor, wise believers know better. Charm can mislead people who have been captivated by it. Verse 31, it says, give her the reward of her labor, and let her works and praises praise her at the city gates. A life of devotion to the Lord renders a reputation that brings honor. Christian women who embrace the model provided in Proverbs 31 and take it to heart deserve to be honored. The reward or the affirmation can encourage her as she strives to live out the model she has embraced. She is a treasure because of her walk with the Lord, and the way she expresses it to everyone she does. The way she expresses it in her church and in the reputation that she leaves is a reputation of pure honor and love for God.
That's right. Well, it's been a good lesson. I've enjoyed Proverbs, and I don't want to teach Song of Solomon.
You don't
Well,
want to teach it.
no, but this is a good lesson to lead into the Song of Solomon.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I realize, you know, no matter what age you are, at least as far as these verses are, the Proverbs are important for us to apply to our life.
That's right.
And you can be, you know, 19 or you could be 91. It's still going to apply in some way or another to your lives, and we can learn stuff from Song of Solomon as well as we go into that one. But I'm glad you guys were with us this week, and I hope the Proverbs have been good. They've been good for me.
They have been.
It's been incredible. I mean, this whole thing, you know,
Yeah,
being
it
able
has.
to study, you know, I don't know, I'm studying 2 or 3 lessons a week right now, so, but that's good. It keeps me in the Word, and
Yes,
I've been enjoying working with the teachers and getting to see how they teach as well. So it's been a blessing there. And, you know, of course, I want things to get back to more of a normal type situation one of these days, but I realize it won't be perfectly normal. But you guys, you know, as soon as you're ready, come back. We have Sunday school on Sunday mornings, and you guys are more than welcome to come and join that. And if you want to go back and watch one of these lessons, that's fine too. So, you know, it's okay either way. But we love to see you. And we know that there's, you know, like the pastor was talking about on Wednesday, you know, we don't want you to get complacent. We don't want you to just be sitting at home and not doing anything. I mean, even Sunday school is a tool. It's
right.
something
Yes,
that
it is.
we can use to reach others that are lost, you know, bring them in to help them be evangelized, discipled. And then when they're here, we also minister to people. So, and we encourage each other, we lift each other. There's such an active part of Sunday school, which is a tool. And if we're just doing the one thing where we're just learning and trying to enrich ourselves and bring our knowledge of the Bible up higher, well, if we're never ever going to use that knowledge, you know, for wisdom, discernment, some type of action,
That's right.
then really James talks about that. You know, it doesn't be no good to just be a readers of the word. You got to be doers of the word.
Doers of the word.
So Sunday school is definitely a doer of the word type situation. So
I think
guys,
it is.
it'd be good for us to get back together and start working on growing this church, growing people, growing, you know, discipling others. You know, even if they don't come to Redbud, you know, we still need to be evangelizing the lost and growing them up so that they can have a good foundation. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. And we'll see you in the service.
Okay.